Our first session now, the introductory session, will be addressed by Brother Ahmed Davutoglu and Dr. Richard Falk, and we are very honored to have Right Honorable Jeremy Corbyn, the British politician, with us. He has to leave, and because of that, we'll shorten our speeches at this time, but I'm just taking a few minutes to introduce the speakers. The first, Brother Ahmed, has been involved with this crisis in Gaza ever since he was the advisor to the government of Turkey. In 2008, I remember very that he developed a very good understanding between Hamas and Israel, but it was going to be signed, but in December 2008, Israel attacked Gaza and destroyed that agreement that was reached. Then he was involved in the negotiation between Hamas and Israel as a foreign minister of Turkey in 2012 and 2014. He was able to get Gilad Shalit out of the prison, and in that negotiation, he was able to get 11 Palestinians who were jailed for life out of the prison through that negotiation. So the point I'm making is that he has good experience in handling the issue. Richard Falk has been working with the United Nations as rapporteur of UN rapporteur on Palestine. I remember once he, on his official mission, landed in Tel Aviv, but the Tel Aviv government deported him out from the airport, did not allow him to enter the country. And of course, Right Honorable Jeremy Corbyn, he revitalized the Labour Party, and I was told that he was the first Prime Minister, going to be the first Prime Minister of Britain, who would have brought Britain out of crisis and had the highest popularity and came up with a manifesto for Britain, which was appreciated even by the opposition. But his main crime was that he cared for Palestine. He would not compromise with the rights of Palestinian people to survive. So we have three very good panelists on this introductory session. So first I request Brother Ahmed to express his views. Thank you.
Distinguished friends of victims in Palestine who came to London to be the voice of humanity, human conscience. Dear friends, first of all, welcome. Welcome to this session. The session which aims to be the conscience of humanity in London, but you came all over the world, from different corners, from different continents you came. And thank you very much for being here in a very short period of time. We are going through a historical process. We are watching every day a genocide continuing on the ground in Gaza. Of course, the term genocide was discussed among us in our Zoom meeting. I remember Phyllis' excellent comment that this is a genocide. Yes, why? Of course, there could be many definitions of genocide, legal definition, political definition, but when we look at the basic content of these definitions, three dimensions, three characteristics of genocide is always there. One is mentality, the second one is methodology, the third one is consequences and results. What is mentality? Of course, yesterday, this meeting, historically important because of the formation of the group, because of the purpose, and because of timing. Yesterday, there was a ruling by ICJ we are strategically planned this, knowing that there would be such a decision Monday before our meeting. Maybe this is the first meeting of leading intellectuals, international lawyers, and also former representatives of UN coming together and making an assessment of the decision of ICJ as well as the term genocide. When I look, just a short analysis, of course, legal interpretation is there. I said mentality, methodology, and consequence. And in fact, Israeli Minister of Defense has proven that their intention was a genocide in 3 sentences. He said, we are fighting human animals. This is mentality, how you approach others. Usually those who are committing genocide, they think that they are chosen nation, they are more equal than the other human beings, like German mentality, that they are super nation. So here, all nations are equals for them, but Israelis are more equal. They are more human beings. So he defines Palestinians as human animals. This is the mental background of starting a genocide. Second sentence, he said, I have released all restraints. It means everything is justified to have this ontological superiority of Israelis to make the reality. So mentality is ontological superiority, like what Nazis claimed before, and now they think that they are human beings, the others are human animals. Then they say, I have released all restraints, means all methodology are legitimized, justified, because of this ontological superiority of a group against ontological inferiority of others. And the third sentence, we will eliminate everything, not only human beings, cities, streets, infrastructure, environment. So this is typical genocidal mentality, because those who committed genocide in the past, again like Germans, like Nazis, they think that historical flow is in their hand. They will decide who should be eliminated. They will decide who should be prevailing of history. The historical flow necessarily gives a special status of one nation. These 3 sentences, in fact, of this Minister of Defense, Gallant of Israel, defines very, definitively what genocide means. And now, we are human beings from different continents, religions, beliefs, nations, philosophical approach, etc. But we believe that we are all equal human beings. There is no ontological superiority. And the international law, based on these basic assumptions, which humanity suffered for centuries to make an order. When we observe these, although Brother Abdullah mentioned that I am the initiator, no. In fact, Richard Falk is the initiator, because he is my very close friend for the last 30 years, not only as a friend personally, but a mental friend, a philosophical friend. Whenever we came together, when I was in academic life, in Malaysia or Turkey, hours and hours we exchanged our opinions. Then I became chief advisor. Continuously, almost every year we met, sometimes very time, thanks to Hilal Hanım. Interestingly, our roads intersected in 2008. As Brother Abdullah mentioned, I was mediating between Israel and Syria for 2 years, discreet, confidential mediation for a permanent solution. And it came to a point of agreement. In 1 week time, everything was ready to be signed. Peace at the exchange of Golan Heights, etc. Ehud Olmert was prime minister. Monday, we were supposed to meet Turkey, Syria, and Israel openly. Saturday, Israeli army attacked Gaza. Although I put a condition from the very beginning to Syrians that Lebanon should be quiet, to Israelis that Gaza should be quiet. Anyway, I don't want to go into details of history. When they attacked Gaza, our relation almost cut. And I went to Egypt and Syria. Together, some of our diplomats went to Israel. And we mediated between Israel, Syria, Hamas, and Egypt. At that time, Hamas leaders were in Damascus. Same time, exactly same time, Richard Falk was appointed as the special rapporteur of UN Secretary General. So our missions were same, to have a permanent peace and to prevent any atrocities, ethnic cleansings, or genocide. We coordinated our efforts. Israelis attacked him, Israelis attacked me, but at the end of the day, we were able to have a ceasefire in January 2009. Second war, 2012, when there was war, that time we coordinated between Turkey, United States, and Qatar. And I went to Gaza when Israel was bombarding, together with my wife, together with 10 Arab ministers. They left Gaza after bombardment started. I stayed there one night. And we were with my wife, Dr. Sarah, we were in Al Shifa Hospital when the Shifa Hospital, even at that time, was bombarded. So I know the realities on the ground, and I know how Israelis are approaching. I know how deep state of Israel, let me say, prevent a peace at the last moment through attacking Gaza. For them, Gaza is an instrument for their ambition. And because of this historical, in 2014, again, I mediated between, together with John Kerry, American Foreign Minister, and Qatari former Prime Minister Hamad bin Jassim, and later Khalid Atiyah. We achieved ceasefires. Why I give these details? Knowing all this background, important thing is to make a paradigmatic shift on the ground. The first paradigmatic shift must be on mentality. Historical flow is in the hands of all human beings equal to each other. And elimination of a people, whoever they are, in Rwanda, in Arakan, or in Palestine, is a human crime against humanity. We consulted with Richard immediately after the 7th of October. And let me just one point. Usually those committing genocide, they make a special egocentric historical analysis, deforming historical facts. Now Israel is trying to justify their genocide through October 7 attacks, as if there was nothing before, as if there was a peace on the ground, as if for 76 years the right of self-determination of Palestinians were not ignored, or 242 in 1967, almost 56 years, was not achieved. Oslo process was successful. All basic rights of Palestinians have been ignored, and they say, yes, 7th of October, history started. I think UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was very right. Nothing has occurred in a vacuum. When Masjid al-Aqsa was attacked for months, when Arab states start normalizing relations with Israel without making reference to Palestine, and especially when Netanyahu showed a map in UN General Assembly, 22nd of September, that there is no Palestine anymore, there is only Israel, Palestinians start to think we are lost. So we have to take our destiny in our hand. This is not to legitimize October 7, but we have to understand the background. And now, after this analysis with Richard, we decided to organize a group. 20th of November, we organized a working committee. Then 4th of December, many of our friends here, they participated in a Zoom meeting, and we decided to have a declaration of global intellectuals against genocide in Gaza. And we made this declaration 18th of December. I am sure all of you almost signed this declaration. And afterwards, after our consultations, we decided to have a face-to-face meeting as quick as possible to make this voice of humanity be heard by all the diplomats, intellectuals, and among the signatories of 139, we have leading statesmen, I don't mean myself, other leading statesmen, like President Marzuki, and I wrote a letter to President Ramaphosa immediately after the attack, and also other leaders whom I had personal relations, like President Lula in Brazil, and Nobel Prize winners, Pulitzer Prize winners, human rights activists. I see all of them. I don't want to mention each name, but it was a very influential group of signatories. Now, yes, we will discuss the realities on the ground in the first session, but everybody knows now 25,700 civilians were killed, 11,000 children, 7,500 women, 64,487 wounded, many of them amputations. Every day, 10 children being, one or both legs were amputated. Now we have at least 1,000 children without legs or arms. In Ukraine, of course, we don't compare pains, but in 2 years only there were 30 children amputated. In 2 months, 3 months, 1,000 children. There are reports of World Health Organization on this subject. And 93% of the population facing crisis level of hunger. 360,000 housing units were demolished. As Gallant say, they want to eliminate everything. Barbaric approach, everything. Now, we will analyze, of course, the decisions yesterday, but I want to, on behalf of all of you, on behalf of all Palestinian children, women, I want to express our gratitude and thanks to President Ramaphosa of South Africa. I personally sent a message to him several times, and we were always in contact with the South African ambassador in Ankara. And they have proven that they are real children of Mandela to defend human rights against apartheid and ethnic cleansings. Lastly, I want to make 2 comments, and I will conclude. We will have enough time to share our views. I want to listen Jeremy Corbyn, like you, who is one of the voice of human dignity throughout his political career. 2 points. One was, in yesterday's ruling of ICJ, there is one element missing: ceasefire was not called urgently. But we have to make an interpretation. All the points raised by ICJ yesterday inherently calls for ceasefire. Without ceasefire, it was impossible to implement those things. This should not give a right to Israelis that there is no call for ceasefire, so we can continue to attack. No, inherently, it is there. Without a ceasefire, none of these objectives could be achieved. Secondly, I want to make a call. Since yesterday, ICJ calls to end this hunger and all these, the basic needs of Palestinians should be, taken care of. I call all the states, UN, to take necessary steps to send humanitarian aid to Gaza. Because, as I said, 93% of the population facing crisis of level of hunger. We know UN Security Council, in UN Security Council, those who are preventing the countries, I don't want to mention the names, they are as responsible as Israel for not taking any action, any decision in UN Security Council. If that UN Security Council decision is missing, now I am calling to regional powers who claim to be the defenders of Gaza, like Turkey, my own country, Turkey, like Egypt, like Saudi Arabia, like other Muslim nations. Not only Muslim nations, South Africa is the human nation, not Muslim, not Christian. We have to show that this is not an issue of between Muslims and Jews or Christians or others. So all the people who feel these states, they have to form a coalition of willings. US formed a coalition of willing against Iraq, although there was no enough evidence for the existence of weapons, chemical weapons there. Now, these states must come together to form a coalition of willing for airdropping, not to make fight, not to make war, airdropping of food, airdropping, I wish to say air bridge, but since there is no airport in Gaza, airdropping like what was done in 1948, this Berlin blockade. So there should be airdropping, and there should be a clear message to Israel. If you prevent this airdropping, we declare this as a war against us. Do this. And there should be a ban of no-fly zone over Gaza for a period of time. And those countries joining to this coalition of willing must send helicopters. Not American Navy in front of Gaza, not British Navy in front of Gaza, but human Navy to blockade, to end the blockade, and to drop necessary needs of Gazan people. They are dying because of hunger, children, women, elderly people, pregnant people, women. So this is my urgent call to all nations who have been using Palestine as their national propaganda. They must come together and they must make a clear declaration that now we are starting airdropping humanitarian operation in Gaza, not to fight against Israel, just to help Gaza, and we send a message to Israel. If they prevent this, that will be a declaration of war by Israel, not by us. Such a coalition of willing is the only way to give a strong message to the world, and I am sure after such a message, US have to think seriously to prevent a regional war, and has to take a decision in UN Security Council without blocking UN Security Council to take any decision. They have to act. Otherwise, they will not change their attitude. Everybody is happy. Israel is thinking that they are eliminating everything. Americans are thinking now we are gaining time. People will forget what has happened, like before, especially EU. I have been defender of EU in Turkey, everywhere. EU values, European Union values are respected. But what they did is a shame for European values. I don't want to give the names of the countries. To their leaders, I wrote personal letters. Many of them I know. But it is a shame. After 7th of October, they went to Israel to show solidarity, but they are observing all the basic European values are being destroyed, and they are just watching. Where are they? Of course, we are defending territorial integrity of Ukraine, but the crimes against Ukraine, if they are, comparatively, what is happening in Palestine is clear. So I don't want to take more time, but these two calls, immediate ceasefire, as well as helping to Gazan people through airdropping by a coalition of willing states, is my two call at the beginning of this very meaningful, timingly meaningful, substantively meaningful meeting. Again, thank you very much for all being with us, and thanks Jeremy and Richard for their contribution and support for this project. Thank you very much.
Hear from what I call the other twin in being responsible for having us here, and remembering some of the points he made this morning. I feel that the incredible heaviness of a lot of what we've heard today and the heavy responsibility now on civil society can be sparked by some of the initiatives. And I'm just going to only mention one. I promise no lists. I think the idea of a convoy of humanitarian everything that you need with 56 flags on it would be something that would really wake up so many parts of the world, including some rather senior figures who'd rather not be woken up. So anyway, thank you for that idea. And over to you.
I'm here, yes. Thank you very much. Really, it was a very fruitful, painful and fruitful day. Painful because we heard many stories which really almost, speakers and all of us, we were almost crying. I thank to our Palestinian friends expressing their own experiences in a very lively manner. Dr. Izzettin Abuleish, Dr. Brother Ramzi Baroud, and of course, Mustafa Barghouti. And also I want to quote Mang Zarni, how they express their feelings. What is going on in the countries where we are facing genocide? Almost all crimes against humanity have been committed. There was no respect to dignity towards humanity in Palestine or in Myanmar or in many other places. In fact, this is the fact of the international order today. Also, we listened very good analysis, historic analysis, as Avish Laim gave the all flow of the events in a very successful manner, especially when he referred to 2006 election in Palestine. People forgot this, unfortunately. You know, I was blamed and heavily criticized by some circles in Turkey and outside when Khalid Meshal came to Turkey after the election. And one of the main, biggest Turkish newspaper, Hürriyet at that time, published my picture, personal picture, a huge one, in the first page, saying that he is behind the terror because of visit of Khalid Meshal. I remember that day when I spoke to him. And next day I spoke to ambassador, American ambassador. I told the American ambassador, if you declared Hamas as a terrorist organization, we don't think that they are, but why did you allow them to participate in election? You, at that time, 2006, you are claiming to have a democracy in Iraq after a war, thousands of people being killed. Now there is a democracy in Palestine and you don't respect the result. You thought when you gave this green light with Israel, you thought that Hamas would lose the election and you would have enough excuse to exclude them. But democracy is this. Democracy makes surprises. And they won the election. It is your fault. Now you are criticizing me. And also, and later in WikiLeaks document, I was declared as the most dangerous man in the Middle East in some American files. No, we are trying to be based on principles. We have to respect the decision of Palestinian people. When I met with Khalid Meshal, I told him, why don't you write an article? We can help that day, that you will not insist on the demolishing Israel, but at least referring to 242 indirectly. He said, yes, we may do it. But will you guarantee us that this time they will allow us to have a state? After Oslo, we have been waiting for 25 years, yes, 22 years. And they promised to Yasser Arafat, to PLO, that there would be state for Palestine. But it was not achieved, and Palestinian Authority lost credibility in the eyes of the Palestinian people. Now, who will guarantee us, if we accept this two-state solution, that Palestinian Authority will be a real state? I couldn't say an answer. Yes? Who guarantees? That is the biggest question. And thanks to Avish Laim, because of his great contribution on this, as an Israeli-British historian, his flow of events was right, what I have personally experienced on the ground. Also, we were very informed and really very beneficial by the suggestions of Phyllis Dennis, Mustafa Barghouti, Waldon Bello, practical suggestions, point by point, and several other very important observations by Penny Green and all of the speakers. Of course, references to Bosnia by Mustafa Čerić and to Myanmar by Zarni, some other enlightening speeches. Of course, John Wittbeck, Jan Oberg, Osman Bogajan, all the speakers. I don't want to give all the names one by one. So it was very useful. Why I'm saying this now? In the morning, I mentioned that there should be a paradigmatic shift. In fact, paradigmatic shift, when it occurs, usually people do not realize. Later, historians write that there was a paradigmatic shift after this event. I think I was against. I wrote an article when there was the famous theory of Fukuyama, end of history. I wrote an article that history never ends. History will continue to flow, and there will be a more dynamic history in the future rather than end of history. This is an egocentric illusion, as Toynbee described, that once you are living in a history, you think that you are at the last stage, like Roman Empire, all roads reaches to Rome, like British Empire, that an empire sun never sets, or like Ottoman Empire, the ultimate order of the world. This is an illusion. Now, when we look at these events recently, you can interpret from a pessimistic perspective that the world is going to the wrong direction. Yes, I have many concerns. One of the concerns is compared, almost, I don't want to give, I am a statesman, therefore I don't want to give names of my counterparts. But when I compare the quality of leadership 20 years ago when I started my diplomatic history, let me say, career, and the leadership today, or leadership 10 years ago and today, there is a huge deterioration. The quality, the wisdom of leaders are losing. And that is a big danger. Two wars are continuing. One is after Iraq and Iranian war, first time two states are fighting, making war against each other. There were several wars, but it was not between two states. After Iraq and Iran, Russia and Ukraine. And a genocide is being committed after Bosnia, Rwanda, now again in Palestine. And there were threats by two powers during this crisis that they may use nuclear weapon by Israel and in Russia. These are very threatening tendencies. But at the same time, we might be optimistic because human society, transnational global conscious is getting more and more motivated, and they are ascending the individual politics of states. What do I mean? ICJ decision, you can look from different perspectives. First, I want to address to two sides, Israelis and Palestine, then three dimensions how to act regarding to this crisis. On one side, from Israeli perspective, first time ever, Israel has been on trial. What do I mean? What is Israel? I wrote an article in 1994 regarding the Israeli new strategy after Oslo process. And I said they, because of their understanding of ghetto, they feel that they are in a ghetto in Middle East, isolated from the region. Therefore, they are creating ghetto within themselves in West Bank and Gaza. Gaza is a new version of ghetto. This psychology is different. And Israel had always an impression, I realized this in my personal experience with many Israeli leaders, they are not an ordinary state. They are super state, or they have rights which do not have the others. Let me, one very interesting anecdote. One Israeli leader, I don't want to name, said, why, when I was negotiating with Iranian side for a nuclear agreement in 2010, together with Celso Amorim from Brazil, and we signed an agreement. An Israeli diplomat said, why you are working with Iran? I said, we are in favor of nuclear-free Middle East, if possible, nuclear-free world. He said, but we are not threat against you. Iran may use nuclear weapon against you, but we will not. I said, and if we use nuclear weapon against Iran, it is against Iran, not against Turkey. I said, nuclear weapon is not as smart as you. Once you use it in Iran, let me say, to the territory of Iran, Tabriz, or another place, it will come to Turkey. They don't have even sense of collective destiny. They think that they can use nuclear weapon against Gaza, as if Gaza is in moon, not next to Israel, or Israelis, and as if they are two different worlds. So they think that they are different. This is very alarming. And the new Israeli leadership, they think that they are above the law, or 51st state of United States, like locomotive of United States. Now, ICJ told them yesterday, you are an ordinary subject of international law. No, you are not above law. You are not superstate. You are an ordinary subject of international law. That is very important historical step as a paradigmatic shift. Therefore, yesterday's ruling is important to teach Israelis that you might be a Jew, you might be Muslim, you might be Christian, atheist, whatever, but states are equal to each other. No state is more important than another state. There is no ontological superiority you may use for their own national interest. That is an important message. Regarding Palestinians, I was very impressed, and I support Ambassador Ford's statement when he said that we should not use the term victim for Palestinians. They are resisting. Yes. In 1967, we call it 6 Days War. In 6 days, Israel defeated 4 Arab states at once and occupied West Bank, Sinai, Golan Heights, and some parts of Sheba farms of Lebanon. In 6 days. And in 112 or 15 days today, they were not able to control a tiny Gaza Strip. For 2 reasons. One, there is no stronger power than a people have a strong will to defend themselves. I agree with our Palestinian friends. 70% of Gaza people, they are refugees from the other parts of Palestine. Where will they go? Israel wants to make them another refuge of law and to depopulate Gaza, but they were not successful. Therefore, again, one friend said America is angry to Israel, not because they committed a genocide, but because they were not able to succeed this genocide in 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. Yes, they are surprised. What is the solution for Palestine? Solution for Palestine will be found by Palestinians. No other nation can impose anything on Palestine. Two-state solution might have been a good solution 30, 40 years ago when there was a continuous territory of West Bank. But today, West Bank is almost another divided land. Where will be the territories? Those who did not go to Palestine, they can easily claim that two-state solution is the best solution. Yes, but go there. I went there several times. How will you separate Jerusalem from Bethlehem? 2 holy places for Muslims, Christians, Jews, and especially Bethlehem for Christians. How can you separate? By wall? How many walls will you be having there? And if Palestinian Authority was given a real statehood, yes, it could have been possible 30 years ago. One of the most, let me say, when I was proud of was 28th of November 2012. In UN General Assembly, I was with President Mahmoud Abbas. I was the only minister from the region. We lobbied for several months together with Mahmoud Abbas in order to declare Palestine as a non-member state status. Before, Palestine was just observer, but not state status. And Americans, all pro-Israeli elements, they lobbied against us. Mahmoud Abbas, whenever we see each other, they always say, in my memoirs, he's a very good writer of memoirs. You don't, maybe Palestinians know this. He's writing every day. Even during the meeting, he takes note. He said, I will write in my memoirs that Turkish Minister of Foreign Affairs was with me in UN General Assembly when all Arab ministers were doing holiday in Istanbul. Yes, they were in Istanbul for Turkish Arab Summit. But interestingly, 138 nations voted yes, 9 voted no. And among these 9, the same people today, US, Canada, Czech Republic, 4 Pacific Islands, Panama, as far as I remember. And US pressurized and sometimes bribed some of them, I know. Why? Why a global power like US is acting like this? Once after 9/11, I gave a lecture. At that time, I was a pure academician. In Princeton, I gave a lecture about 9/11. I said, when I realized nationalistic tendencies rising in US, I was very concerned and panicked, and I said, United States now needs not a new Caesar. The United States needs a Marcus Aurelius, who is trying to unite the multinational, multi-ethnic Roman Empire, rather than to make new conquests. A philosopher king, rather than a conqueror. But later, and I said the best choice for an American Marcus Aurelius will be an African American. 7 years before Obama came to power. Obama came to power, we exchanged our views at that time. Why I am giving this? One day, we will have to realize that Palestinian state dignity should be respected by UN. And Palestinians heroically has proven that they will not allow to depopulate Gaza, and they will not allow final elimination, what Minister of Defense of Israel, eliminate everything. They can eliminate buildings, they can eliminate other things, but they cannot eliminate hearts of a nation trying to defend themselves. What can we do? Under 3 categories, we can focus. One is on international organizations, second, individual nation states, third, civil societies. What I learned from today as a summary, international organization level. Of course, there were very good suggestions from Phyllis, Benis, and many others. In UN, we have to campaign for the recognition of Palestinian state as a real state. Then start to negotiate as 2 states. There is an abnormality. And I wrote recently, now what we need today is not normalization with Israel. What we need is normalization of Israel as an ordinary subject and state of international order, rather than superior state. One side is a state with army, with force, with support of global powers. The other side, Palestinians, Palestinian authority. In the diplomatic history, there is no term authority except Palestinian authority. Is it state? There abnormality. What is authority? What does it mean, authority? It has been created for Palestinian people as if they are seemingly state, superficial statehood. Therefore, the questions were valid. What is security? And it was very good answer of Mustafa Barghouti when securitization of Palestine. Palestinian police is there in their imagination of Israelis or Americans to control Palestinians, not to defend Palestinians. This is different things. If state, every state has army or security force to defend its own population. But in Palestine, the mission of Palestinian security force is to control them after Intifada. Now, this statehood should be recognized. And I really like the idea, and we have to campaign for this, that we have to exclude Israel from every international organization. We have to campaign from FIFA, Olympic Games, like what has happened for South Africa. The same thing should be implemented there. During the apartheid of South Africa, many people, when Mandela was in prison, many people thought that South African apartheid regime will continue forever, especially for those who are running the country. But they went, and a new South Africa did emerge. These international organizations at all levels, when I said World Health Organization, UNICEF, we have to pressurize UNICEF. What is the mission of UNICEF? Protection of children. Did they do a good job regarding children in Gaza? What did they do? Some statements, that's all. Why there is no UNICEF mission going to Gaza and investigate what is going on for children in Gaza? UNESCO, buildings, historic buildings being destroyed. What is the role of UNESCO regarding Masjid al-Aqsa when Israelis attack Masjid al-Aqsa almost every Friday and trying to dig from the ground? And this is especially important for international organizations. For individual countries, again, some of our friends mentioned one by one a good sequence of what individual countries can do. You know, 14th, 9th of October, 2 days after the crisis started, as a former Prime Minister, I declared 12 steps to be taken by Turkish government. Now, that was, I think, by Filiz and by Mustafa Barghouti, by Walden Bello, many of them mentioned about this, what to do. Military sanction, economic sanction, no-fly zone, definitely. I agree with Mustafa Cheric. I mentioned, but it should be there. And banning Israeli flights over the airspaces of the countries. I talked to our government. They are my old friends. But what Turkish government today doing is not what we have been defending for many years and decades. And implement trade sanction and end all trade relations with Israel. I am ashamed that still Turkish ports were being used to send, and Turkey is still exporting military equipment or food, oil. This is shameful. And I congratulate Malaysia when they banned, and my dear friend Anwar Ibrahim as Prime Minister, they banned the ports being used by Israeli ship. So there should be, by all of us, 25 from 25 countries, the representatives, we have to make pressure on our governments, as it has been suggested by our speakers, individual level, and today I started this and I will continue to repeat. If UN security is not able to take, and if you think it is appropriate for your own countries, we have to start a campaign for coalition of willing. If UN Security Council is being vetoed by US, then those countries who have a position of defending human dignity, they can form a coalition of willing. US did this during Iraqi war, before Iraqi, although they didn't have enough evidence of chemical weapons. Once there was no decision because of Russian and Chinese veto, they formed a coalition of willing. We have now evidence of ICJ. There is a genocide continuing, and there could be a coalition of willing not to fight, to send humanitarian assistance, humanitarian access to Gaza, and ask Israel not to use, to prevent. This is, Richard knows this terminology much better, but this is what is in ICJ ruling yesterday, that Israel should not prevent the humanitarian access. So based on this, coalition of willings, Turkey or Egypt, all the countries, including South Africa, can start such a process. Lastly, civil society. To be frank, I was a little bit worried at the early days of crisis when there was a blame. First day I made a statement, I was attacked by all media in Turkey, 7th of October, knowing what will be happening next stage. But now of course, I am not happy because of this bloodshed, but I am proud of civil society everywhere in the world, regardless of their ethnic, religious orientation. Millions gathered in London, in New York, in Washington, everywhere in the world. Now, what we can do? What else can we do? Now I am not Prime Minister anymore, not Foreign Minister. If I was Foreign Minister, Prime Minister, I should have done what I have told. But now, as an academician, as a mediator, as two co-chair of mediation initiative accepted by UN, together with Finland and Turkey, we did this. We can continue this process. And I am grateful to Richard when we first spoke on this project. To be frank, we didn't expect such enthusiasm by you and other signatories. Many signatories, they were not able to come because of the short period of time and because of their health conditions. I am sure they will be supporting us. And this global conscious initiative, let me say, therefore we said global conscious initiative, not only for Gaza, but for all the issues relevant to this. Therefore I was very impressed when there was reference to Myanmar, and also I was impressed when Sunita, am I right, referred to Hindus for human rights. Yes. In China today, in Xinjiang, we have another genocide continuing. And this is like pandemics, you know. The devil or evil is like virus. It spreads. You cannot control. Good things spreads, and this, like pandemics, now it is spreading. Everywhere there is a rise of racism, fascism. In Europe, I don't want to give the names of the leaders, but you can predict whom I mean. And once Filipino, Walden Bello mentioned Filipino ambassador, what did he say regarding killing children? But the psychology in Europe is almost similar. I wrote a letter to German Chancellor Scholz. I was admiring him because as a social democrat leader, when I went to Germany 2012, because some Turks were killed by neo-Nazis, and he welcomed me. He was mayor of Hamburg, and I wrote a letter to him. I couldn't recognize you. When I observed your humanitarian approach when I came to Hamburg, but you were in Tel Aviv, and when you were in the airport, a hospital was bombarded, and there was no voice. And many Europeans today, they have this, there is a need of a psychological analysis, this sense of guilt. Why Palestinians should pay for the sense of guilt of Europe? This is unimaginable. So today there is a need of a revival of these civil societies, transnational civil societies should come together. I don't want to repeat Marxist approach that all proletariat should be together, but all nations, all religious communities, civil society should be shoulder to shoulder against rising fascism, rising racism, rising xenophobia or Islamophobia, wherever it emerges. It is shocking. When Antony Blinken went to Israel, he said that he came to Israel as a Jew. If assume that Sunak, Prime Minister Sunak, in a clash in India, if there is a crisis and he goes to India and says, I came here as a Hindu, how would Muslims or Christians in Britain feel about it? If a Muslim leader, one day, if there will be a Muslim leader, in one of European country and goes to a place and say, I came here as a Muslim, then transnational fascism will be there. Against this transnational fascism, we have to motivate a transnational humanism as it has been described by international law and human dignity. This is our duty to show, and when we declared Declaration of Conscience of Global Intellectuals, that was our vision. And today, I am very happy to see that this vision is being realized. Of course, there are many things to be done, but we have to look from an optimistic. Once in a conference in Kazakhstan, there were two approaches, let me say, in forum. One were very negative future projection that the world is going to the third world war. Another was saying that, no, wars are decreasing, we are going to a very positive future. I said, both are wrong, yes. We cannot be utopic optimist like Fukuyama, which is disforming history and disforming for future. But we cannot be nihilistic pessimist like many other people. What could we do? We should be realistic optimist. We have to be realistic that there is a rising fascism and racism, but at the same time, as an optimist, we have to provide a future based on human dignity for next generations. I hope this meeting will be a good indication for this purpose, and I am grateful to all of you accepting our invitation, and I hope that this group will continue to work together for not only for Palestine, but for all the issues regarding global conscience. With this, I want to make some small announcement after thanking. After this session, we have very good rapporteurs, including Victoria, Penny, and coordinated by Hilal. They will prepare a statement based on the discussions we had today, and we will check together. And tomorrow, those who are staying here at 8 o'clock, we will have a breakfast together, and we will go through this statement. I mean, continuation of our declaration, earlier declaration signed by all of you, supported by the new ideas and proposals, what could be suggestions, what could be done. Tomorrow, breakfast time, we will submit this. Am I right, Hilal Hanım? Yes. Hopefully, we will complete it tonight because it was a very rich discussion. And another issue tomorrow during breakfast, for those who are staying here, we can discuss what to do next among us. Richard had an excellent idea of having a people's tribunal at next stage. I think we have to work on this. Do you know, it was a good coincidence that after one day we had this meeting, but there was another proposal to organize this meeting in South Africa. If we had this meeting in South Africa, it would have been really a real strategic step. But we can organize this tribunal. Of course, we have to look for sponsors, maybe in Hague or in South Africa or somewhere. We can have this tribunal as the reflection of global consciousness. These are basically what I want to say. And again, thank you very much. And before completing, maybe not to forget this very effective Day of Humanity, we can have a common picture together, all of us, here or somewhere suitable place. Bilgehan, where can we have a photo together? Okay, so, yeah. You know, and again, thanks to all of you, and I hope we will meet tomorrow for breakfast. They will inform you where we will be having. But Hilal Hanım reminded me to thank the staff, our staff, I don't know how many Zooms we have organized for this. I thank all of our staff. Should I give the names? No.
Especially today.
Yes, today, everybody, all staff. You know, he's much younger than me. I forgot, but he didn't forget. What we are planning together with Richard, and he already organized. Recently I published 2 books. Thanks to him, in English, I wrote, after Prime Minister, I wrote 7 books, 5 in Turkish, 2 in English. But Richard always encouraged me to write new books. He is one of the most productive academicians in last 1 century. So he already organized with a publisher. Clarity Press has agreed to publish this conference as a book, as an edited book. We will circulate the discussions, but we expect all the speakers to submit their presentation in an article form. Am I right, Richard? In an article form. And all those who were not speaker but commentator, essay form. Commentator, they can also write. So we don't have any limitation only for the speaker. Anybody from our group can submit to this project of publishing a book as early as possible, essay form or article form. Again, thank you very much to all of you who contribute to this event. Thank you very much.
I just want to say a big, big thank you to the 2 of them, and indeed all the wonderful staff who've been emailing us and organizing us. It's been a great feat. Thank you so much.